Thinking only begins at the point where we have come to know that reason, glorified for centuries, is the most obstinate adversary of thinking. Why are there beings at all, instead of nothing? Nothing is everything that doesn't happen at this very moment. A boundary is not that at which something stops, but that from which something begins. The essence of technology is by no means anything technological. Making itself intelligible is suicide for philosophy. A person is neither a thing nor a process but an opening through which the absolute can manifest. Longing is the agony of the nearness of the distant. Questioning is the piety of thought. Everyone is the other and no one is himself. Language is the house of being. In its home man dwells. Those who think and those who create with words are the guardians of this home. Every man is born as many men and dies as a single one. How one encounters reality is a choice. Nothing is everything that doesn't happen at this very moment. We make a space inside ourselves, so that being can speak. We should never allow our fears or the expectations of others to set the frontiers of our destiny. A person is neither a thing nor a process but an opening through which the absolute can manifest. Thinking begins only when we have come to know that reason, glorified for centuries, is the stiff-necked adversary of thought. Philosophy will not be able to effect an immediate transformation of the present condition of the world. This is not only true of philosophy, but of all merely human thought and endeavor. Dwelling is not primarily inhabiting but taking care of and creating that space within which something comes into its own and flourishes. We do not have a body, rather, we are bodily. Dasein is a being that does not simply occur among other beings. Rather it is onically distinguished by the fact that in its being this being is concerned about its very being. Thus it is constitutive of the being of Dasein to have, in its very being, a relation of being to this being. The most thought-provoking thing in our thought-provoking time is that we are still not thinking. The human being is not the lord of beings, but the shepherd of being. Time is not a thing, thus nothing which is, and yet it remains constant in its passing away without being something temporal like the beings in time. The relationship between man and space is none other than dwelling, strictly thought and spoken. Man acts as though he were the shaper and master of language, while in fact language remains the master of man. The world, in resting upon the earth, strives to surmount it. As self-opening it cannot endure anything closed. The earth, however, as sheltering and concealing, tends always to draw the world into itself and keep it there. To think being itself explicitly requires disregarding being to the extent that it is only grounded and interpreted in terms of beings and for beings as their ground, as in all metaphysics. I know that everything essential and great originated from the fact that the human being had a homeland and was rooted in tradition.